So something I've always loved about being a teacher is that we almost get like 2 new years, if you will. Like we get the natural January 1 reset of the calendar year, but we also get another new year reset and mindset reset every August, or July or September, depending on when you start your new school year. And I don't know about you, but I love a new year and I love new year energy. In the past, I've set a word for the year and it's kind of been my theme. I know a lot of people do that. But this year, I kind of just chose more of like a phrase and more of like a mental mindset shift that I really wanted to guide my year. And that was the concept of no rules. So if you're like an Enneagram 7, like my husband, your entire life is no rules. So you may not understand why someone wants to make that their theme or goal of the year. But for me, I'm an Enneagram 1. And if you're not into the Enneagram, that's totally fine. But Enneagram 1s have an extremely strong sense of justice. We care a lot about rules. We live in the black and white. I have personally worked through years of therapy to try to actively be able to seek out the gray in life and to offer more grace to myself and to others. I have found that because of my natural instinct to just see things so strictly, I often make rules for things that don't have to have rules. And I do one thing one time and I feel like that's how then it needs to be done forever. Or, I'm always making everything into a system or procedure. And y'all know, like if you've been around here a while, you're probably like quaking because you know that your girl lives for systems and procedures. That is my bread and butter. That's what I do really naturally. That's what I spend a lot of energy equipping teachers to create for themselves. But at the same time, for someone like me, that's kind of my default factory setting is almost robotic in a sense. I have to work hard to swing the other end of the pendulum in order to live in gray or to live in grace, because the gray and the grace, those can be really, really great things. And so that's what I set out to do this year, to live in kind of this no rules mindset and really let myself branch out and just not live so rigidly. In the past, another kind of concept I've had as my theme for the year was this concept of open hands and just not holding things so tightly and strictly. So I feel like this is almost like a variation of that, but really wanted to do it more of like the no rules in terms of I don't need to make a rule out of every single thing and I can be a lot more flexible. So obviously, y'all, it's only August. So I'm only 2/3 of the way, through this year. But I can honestly say to you, living in this way has legitimately changed my life. Like using the concept of no rules as a lens through which I make decisions every day has truly changed me, and it's changed the entire dynamic of our family. And as I've been thinking about this, we did this series back in June all about things I've learned in parenting and just kind of like in my personal life and how I feel like they could really apply to the classroom. I feel like this kind of tracks with that. And I really feel like you may want to take this concept this year in your own classroom and adopt it for yourself. This mindset of no rules as kind of your theme for your school year, because I think it could really change the entire culture of your classroom if you committed to it. So what do you think about that? Do you want to hear more about how it's changed me and how I think it could change you? If so, let's get to this episode. This is Secondary Science Simplified, a podcast for secondary science teachers who want to engage their students and simplify their lives. I'm Rebecca Joyner from It's Not Rocket Science. As a high school science teacher turned curriculum writer, I am passionate about helping other science teachers love their jobs, serve their students, and do it all in only 40 hours a week. Are you ready to rock the time you spend in your classroom and actually have a life outside of it? You are in the right place, teacher friend. Let's get to today's episode. So today, I just want to share with you 4 ways that no rules and living within that concept as like the umbrella or the lens or the filter through which under I do everything. I'm going to share these 4 ways that it's changed our year as a family, and then also how I think it could change you and your school year if you're kind of trying to start fresh and in a new this school year and maybe have a lens through which you make decisions. And so 4 things it's doing for me. 1, it's slowing me down. 2, it's making me more flexible. 3, it's making me more fun. And 4, it's making me more free. And so I want to walk through each of those with you and how I think you too could slow down this year, be more flexible, fun, and free. Okay. And yeah, it would have been nice if my first one was also a word that started with an F, because I love alliteration, but hey, no rules. This is really just like showing my growth in that I can make 4 points and they don't have to all start with the same letter. All right. So there's no rules here. They don't need to all start with F. So the first one is this concept is slowing me down and it's really making me think about the why behind everything I do. I think that I am naturally very reactive. My husband would say that I run a little hot, a lot hotter than he does, which means I am like quick to react in a situation. And this is one of the reasons I know this. I've known this my whole life. It's one of the reasons why I do love rules and systems, because I love to be proactive in preventing things so that I can set myself up to not be reactive later, because I know that I have a tendency to react emotionally. So I love a rule, I love a system, I love a process and a procedure so that I can have something set in place that will help me not be emotionally reactive like in the moment. Because let's be real, teaching is 1 million decisions every second of every day. You really have to think on the spot and make a lot of those in the moment decisions. And so I love the rules and systems to help me and equip me in those. I will also say too, I am naturally, and I know this is all getting like very personal. So like you may not relate. You may be like a very settled, non-reactive person. So, but I hope that like maybe this will still give you some ideas for maybe a new concept if yours isn't no rules this year. But if you do function how I do, hopefully this will inspire you maybe this school year. So I'm very reactive. I'm also I'm like hyper efficient to the point of bulldozing. I will admit to y'all in a very recent, honest conversation with my husband the other day, he said, I think at times your efficiency is what robs our family of peace. And that was like, whew, a punch in the gut. But I saw the truth in it. Like I love to be efficient so much that I can rob the peace and the peaceful feeling out of my home that I'm like, I'm honestly working so hard and efficiently to create. But like in doing that, I can rob the peace and I can bulldoze. And so one thing I've been trying to do in this concept of no rules is taking a second, slowing down when my kids ask me something to think before I respond and before I just automatically respond how I always respond and like the way we've always done things and the rules that I've made in the first place is I remember like, why did I make that rule? Or why has this come to be my default reaction and my default response in this moment? And does it really matter to reinforce it? So for example, I'll give you some life examples and then we'll apply it to the classroom too. So like if my kids ask to take a bath at noon, my immediate reaction is typically, no, we take a bath before bed. And it's like, okay, but does that really matter? Like, does that have to, just because that's a rhythm that we have, doesn't mean it has to be a rule. We can take 2 baths a day if we want to. If they just want to take a bath because my kids love playing in the bath and then they're not being rushed out to go to bed, they just want to have like an extended bath time. Who cares? Like, why not? My daughter is 5, but she's still very much in like, I want to wear a ball gown and 1,000 accessories to the grocery store. Like, sure. Okay. Yeah. Is there a chance it will get dirty? And is it harder for her to sit in the cart, next to her little brother when she has a hoop skirt on? For sure. That's a lot more difficult. But like, does this really matter? In less than a year, I bet we will be out of the princess dress phase and I will be missing her wearing a crown through Aldi, So it's like, it's fine. No rules. Wear a princess dress. Who cares? Now let's think about how this works for, maybe your students. Maybe this is them asking you, can I listen to music while I work? And maybe your default is typically always no. But then it's like, okay, well, maybe what's the why behind that? And maybe you have a great reason for it. Like there is a legit reason. For instance, one of the things my kids ask me about is they always want to take their shoes off when they come to CrossFit with me at the CrossFit gym. And that is a rule that we have a no to. Why? And all the other kids will be barefoot. But why is because there are so many ways they can get injured in this gym. They need to have closed-toed shoes on. So I don't have to worry about someone dropping a barbell and crushing their toes. It would still hurt with shoes on, but it would be even worse without shoes on. And so that is a rule that has a legitimate why to it. And I feel confident. So it's not like I'm throwing all rules out the window, but I am just taking a more concerted effort to slow down. Again, I'm so quick to say yes or no. Like I'm so quick to do that. Why don't I just take a second and even say to my children, hey, let me think about that for a second. Think about the why and then respond. And then I'm more prepared. Same with your students. Can you take a second when they ask like, hey, can we do this with a partner? Hey, can we, not have this for homework? Or hey, can we finish this for homework? Can we have an extra day to work on this? Any of those types of questions they ask you where you might typically say default no, maybe they say, hey, let me think about that for a minute. Think about it and then think about the why and then respond. And is there an opportunity for you then when you're slowing down and thinking about the why to be more flexible, which is my next point. Living this way has made me so much more flexible in responding to maybe different needs that my kids have than I have and different ways of living that they want versus what I want. So thinking about this, especially this has come up so much this summer. And I feel like summer especially is like the season to really live out no rules. Of course, we're going to have to tighten things up a little bit more as the school year starts. Cause I got, my kids have to get up at 6:30 in order for me to get us all ready to get my oldest out the door and get him to elementary school. So we can't be staying up late. But, now has been a great time to live out no rules this summer because of our season. Like someone, says, hey, do you guys want to, meet us at the beach? And it's like at 6:30. And I'm like, oh, that's normally when we're doing bath and kind of settling down. I can get them in bed by 7. I can have the door shut by 7:30 and be on the couch, but it's like, hey, no rules. We can make an exception here. This is a family we've been wanting to spend time with. Let's make the exception and go do it and stay up a little later tonight. Or last minute invite from friends to get together for pizza, but I've already prepped. I've already been marinating chicken. Okay, you can throw marinated chicken into the freezer, or I can save it and just do a big lunch tomorrow. That's been a fun thing this summer is like, because we've been doing the beach and the pool so much at night, we've been having more like lunch food at nighttime and then just like big meals at lunchtime. And it's, who cares? No rules. I can make tacos for lunch and we can have sandwiches for dinner as opposed to doing it the other way around. Or another example, I don't know why I'm on this food spiral, but like my daughter is obsessed with breakfast food. Any kind of breakfast food, not just like cereal. It's not like she's just eating trash. She loves Greek yogurt. She loves scrambled eggs. She loves bacon, sausage, pancakes, toast. So she just wants breakfast food for both breakfast and lunch. And it's like in smoothies, like any breakfast food she'll eat. And I always like have been bucking at that for as long as she's not been eating baby food. And it's like, who cares if she just eats breakfast twice a day? She's still eating. I can make her a smoothie with so much spinach and avocado and like frozen cauliflower in it. And she's getting veggies in there and she doesn't care. So why do I put in my head that like she needs to eat a peanut butter and jelly for lunch? Actually, her eating scrambled eggs in a smoothie is actually healthier probably than her having veggie straws and a peanut butter and jelly for lunch. So like, why have I made this rule that she needs to eat lunch food? Who cares if she does better at breakfast food? She can have breakfast twice a day. It's fine. No rules. It's made me more flexible for the quirks and the personalities of the people who live with me. And so applying this to your classroom, your students are going to approach life with a different mindset from you. So maybe living with this idea of no rules can make you more flexible in terms of the output that they come up with for a project. So maybe you envision them doing, a PowerPoint presentation for their project output. And they have an idea like, hey, could we make a video? Could we make a TikTok? And it's like, sure, why not? I don't care about how you express this. I just want to make sure you learn the content, Or maybe it's one of those things. I had a class once, y'all, that 75% of the students in the class had an IEP or 504, and they just all felt really overwhelmed on test days. And there's a lot of test anxiety that was not even a part of their accommodations, just the personalities of this group of students. And so you know what we started doing? It was a biology group. We started doing our tests over 2 days. So instead of having one review day, one test day, like my other classes, we did review half day and then half the test. And then the second day, review half day, then half the test. So they were still on time with the other classes. It's not like they were getting behind in sections, but we just modified how we did these. I was more flexible. I broke up my rule of like, we have a review day and we have a test day. And they did so much better chunking the content in that way. I feel like I helped equip them more in studying. It just worked better for everybody. So I think this concept of no rules, maybe it could make you more flexible this year to meet the needs or the little quirks of their personalities of the students in your class. If you kind of maybe waver on some of the rules you've had and the way you've done things in the past. Having no rules has also honestly just made me more fun. I don't know about you. I don't know about your family dynamic, your structure, what your partner's personality is like compared to yours. You know, there's so many different dynamics here. But again, I'm married to an Enneagram 7, which is like the enthusiast. They're like the most fun people. Ones in health go to 7. So like mine feels like 7s are the best personality because when I'm really, really healthy, I'm more like a 7. And so that's something, again, I'm working through in therapy because there's no better personality, you know? But I do find that like my husband is the fun parent and I'm not. But living in no rules has made me more fun. Like for instance, my kids have been asking for popsicles for their afternoon snack. And honestly, who cares? Previously, we'd been having popsicles after dinner. And then, you know what? Then they're all sticky. So then we have to take a bath after dinner. And then I get like the Aldi organic, no added sugar popsicles and stuff. But still, like maybe it's not the best thing for them to have dessert right after dinner, right before bed. So when they've asked for it for their afternoon snack, it's like, who cares? So now popsicles have become kind of our afternoon snack, which they think is like the most fun thing ever. And then if they need something else after dinner, they're going and having like peanut butter crackers or one of their more snacky foods to kind of fill in the cracks before bed. And my kids think it's so fun. When they ask me for a popsicle at 3 p.m. and I say yes, they are like, our mom is awesome. Another thing, this is so silly, but bubbles in the bath. Okay, this is something I didn't used to do a lot because I feel like it's kind of harder to clean them when there's like bubbles all over their heads. And, you know, I don't want to like just always pay for bubbles. But I did the math once and it's like a quarter a bath. It's like 25 cents every time they take a bath if I put a little bit of the bubbles in it. And the joy it brings them is so out of control. And they think I'm so fun when they ask if they can have bubbles and I say yes. So it's like, why did I make this rule that we could only have bubbles on a certain time? So again, you might be listening, this is crazy, Rebecca. You make rules for everything. And it's true. I don't know why. It's just my default brain, but being more flexible in that has made me more fun. How does this apply for your students? Your students who want to doodle all over their notes. Who cares? As long as they're paying attention, who cares if they're doodling all over their notes? Do they want to do this activity as partners or in small groups or by themselves? Great. Let them do it. It's fun. Is it a beautiful day? Can we take clipboards and take this work outside? Sure. Why not? Abandon the slides. I'll just do an oral lecture and then we'll hit the highlights when we get back. You don't have to sit for notes every day in class, and you can change up what you do in class because the weather's good, you know, or hey, your students are feeling overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed with a lot you have to grade. Okay, let's do a catch-up day where they work on late work they have for you and work they have for other teachers. You catch up on grading. We all get caught up. Do we lose one instructional day, which I know are very valuable? Yes. But the relief and the fun you could provide for your students by throwing those in once a quarter, maybe you build them into your schedule once a quarter that we're going to have this and this is going to serve you and it's going to serve your students. Imagine what you could do with that reclaimed extra time too, and how it could be good for them. Having no rules and being more flexible on that can be really, really fun. And then lastly, it's made me so much more free. And that's my greatest hope out of all of these things for this school year. I want you to be free this school year. How could you be more free if you let go of some rules? One thing I think it's really important to ask ourselves is things that we see as rules or must-dos, we really need to reevaluate. Are these must-do things? On the other hand of that, is this a should-do or a have-to-do? Or should is different from must. And most things, should is like we're motivated by guilt. It's not really something we really have to do. And so I would ask yourself, is there truly a rule here? Or if I just made this a rule? Or if this is a rule maybe you've heard from your admin or your district, I would always ask, how required is required? You can set yourself up to be free from some of these rules and do things differently this school year. I just feel so much more free as a human, being more flexible, being more fun, and like slowing down a little bit more. All of that has culminated in me as an individual person feeling so much more free and free to change up what I do. We can try something, and if it doesn't work, then the next time they ask, I can say no. Or, we can give it a couple weeks, and if it doesn't work, change it up. I want that for you guys this year. My biggest challenge to you listening to this podcast episode is that you would feel the freedom to break out of some rules and some things you've always done this year and try something new. Maybe that's what I preach about all the time on this podcast, like cutting your grading time in half by only collecting, there's a lot of ways you can do that. But one way I like to do that is only collecting one thing a day to grade from one prep period. Like try that and see how it goes. There's no rules that say you have to collect something every day from every class. So why do we? Maybe it's changing how you set up your grade book. I'm really passionate about only doing a 2-category system. I like major, minor, or you can call it formal and informal grades, and then doing points within those categories to weight different assignments differently. It has set me up so much for freedom to not have to have all these assignments in every category because you only have 2. So you always end up with plenty of categories. Or maybe a way that you can be more free this year is setting yourself up to only check your email twice a day. That is a hard boundary I set, and it freed me so much I can't explain, mentally and time-wise, to have more capacity for teaching and lesson planning, which are my 2 reasons why I loved this job. So only checking email 2 times a day. Who says you have to check it 5 times a day? Who says? No rules. Let's try to do something different. And if someone is telling you need to check your email 5 times a day, I would see how much they're going to follow up on that. And 2, I would tell them as a science teacher, it's a safety concern for you to be checking your email that often, because that means you're not able to focus on the safety of your students if you're expected to check your email every class period or whatever ridiculous expectation they have. So use the science teacher safety card. That's one of my favorite cards we get to pull as science teachers. Also, you know what else could make you more free this year? 2 things I'm really passionate about. 1, putting a note in the signature of your email that says when you check your email. So I check my inbox when I get in the morning before school starts and before I leave at the end of the day. You can expect to hear from me one of those times when you email me. Or if you don't want to do that, maybe it's even just putting up an autoresponder every weekend. When you leave at 4 p.m. on Friday, you have an autoresponder on your email that says, "Hi, I do not check email over the weekends. I will check again Monday at 8 a.m. when I get into my classroom. In the meantime, here are answers to most frequently asked questions." And you point them to your website. You point them to how you keep the grade book up to date. You point them to your tutoring hours, that kind of thing. Put up that autoresponder. Think about how that could make you more free to set yourself free from this idea that you feel like you need to be available on the weekends when you don't because you're not being paid for it. So all of that to say, no rules has changed my life. It's changed my family. I would be so excited to hear how maybe if you would choose to adopt that this school year as you start a new year and maybe have a new theme for this school year, how it could change you in your classroom. So if you are excited to try having no rules this school year, leave a review and let me know. Or if you have a different kind of theme or word for your school year this year that you're focusing on, that's going to be a filter or a lens as you walk through this year, I would love to hear about it. So shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm its.not.rocket.science. And I would love to hear from you. And I have a few other podcast episodes about some of those topics I mentioned, like cutting back your grading and not checking your email as much. And I will link those in the show notes, which you can find at itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/episode 144. All right, teacher friends, that wraps up today's episode. If you're looking for an easy way to start simplifying your life as a secondary science teacher, head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge to grab your classroom reset challenge. And guess what? It's totally free. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week. Until then, I'll be rooting for you, teacher friend.